Where's everybody calling in from? Where are you in the world right now?
Jersey City, New Jersey.
I'm on the island of Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts.
Oh, cool. Are you in Trinidad, Josh?
I'm not in Trinidad. I currently work on a cruise, so I'm on the high seas, somewhere between Dominica and what I see just now, Bonaire.
I'm in Brooklyn, New York.
All right. I miss Trinidad, Josh. I had the best time there.
I miss Trinidad too.
Me too.
Well,
I wish I was there right now.
Morning. Let me introduce you guys, and then you could introduce yourself. So this is the very small team that helped me put together Anatomic Frequencies, and I love that it's such a small team because it was just so magical and everybody was rushed. I think I would have approached everybody here like, I have to, do this really quickly. What can you do, please? And I'm so happy that you guys still wanted to be a part of it, because the end product, for me, it turned out beyond what I even, thought it could have been. I'm just so proud of it. And I really hope that you guys are proud of it too. And I wish that you could be there when you see how people react to the music and the visuals in real time. And it really moves people. So Joshua Richardson on bass. He's the bass that you would have heard for all the pieces. I'm a custom using him. He's from back in Trinidad. I have Ron Metivier, who played the guitar and cuatro and maracas on some of the tracks. He's also from Trinidad. I have Patrick Camilien, who I met for the first time when we were driving to Catskills, and that was a whole thing that we definitely going to jump into here. And he did the visuals and the photography also. And we have Doug Hinrichs. Doug is this fantastic percussionist that I got connected to through Dareem Chandler, and I'm so happy that I went with him. I have, again, no history with Doug, first time working with him, and he blew my mind with the work that he did. And then, of course, I have Jimmy Parr, who I met just a few months ago at Martha's Vineyard. He was the mixing engineer at the gig, and these guys were so cool, and they were like these full-time creatives that just had such a vibe. And I reached out to him like, hey, do you know anybody who would be interested in this? And he was like, I'm interested in this, which I was so happy to hear. So that's everybody. What did you guys think? What were your thoughts? What was your feeling looking at it, listening to it, hearing stuff edited?
Great production, first of all. The mix, production, great. Bravo, Jimmy.
Well, I had the pleasure of coming in at the very end when everybody else has added all their amazing parts and 1,000 decisions have been made, and it was really cool to be able to mix for headphones, where usually you're mixing for but to be able to use the dimensions and put parts in their places, that was just very exciting. And it happened to coincide, I had to issue with an old motorcycle injury on my ankle, and I spent a few days in the hospital at the time when I needed to do the mixing. It's like, perfect. I've got my laptop, I've got a pair of headphones, I can, do the dimensional. I was thinking, God, it would be great to do this in surround sound, so you have, you can put the different percussion parts all around you, have the bass come up through the floor.
And I think there was also was there some sort of storm that was happening too?
Oh yeah, the whole time I was in the hospital, there was this massive windstorm, and the hospital is so well built that it was like watching the storm on TV. The hospital is right on the water. So from my hospital bed, here I am mixing these beautiful sounds and looking out this plate glass window at the ocean and waves just boiling, and not a sound. It was bizarre, because in my house, if there's a storm, you hear it. You hear the roof shaking, you hear the windows.
What about you, Ron and Josh? What did you think of the final production?
Honestly, I'm at the point where anything Jeanine sends me, I'm extremely happy to add, to be honest, because it's interesting to create something that you could see. You could visibly see what it's going to be like while it's recording, because I could actually sit down and hear the textures, hear the colors. I could see everything happening, and then to see the videos and the stuff that she sent, it's like, wow, the brain, the mind, the way that you put together things is really lovely. And I'm just really proud to be a part of a project like this. And then to see the reactions of the people when they come into the space and they get that immersive experience is like perfect.
And for me, it was. I mean, this was phenomenal. Knowing the fact that Jeanine and I, our history go way back from the paranda industry, and to see how she has grown and to express her true artistic feelings and bring it into life. And Joshua, you as well. I'm a fan, bro. Good
I
work.
appreciate it,
Yeah,
man.
you know what I mean. So I didn't have to work from an empty space, and me being a country boy, South Trinidad, it was easy to relate to those things. I mean, I wake up to the rain falling on the galvanized and those stuff like that, the birds chirping. So that was very nostalgic for me. So I was right at home, man. So congratulations, Jeanine.
I'm a custom composer music from Trinidad. From home, I would naturally have our rhythmic influences, whether it's African, Indian, Latin, and all these different things. But when I was in Catskills, this was like the first completely green space that I was able to really immerse myself into. And I didn't want to make it about me and my voice, but trying to find the rhythm of the land naturally. In that same sentiment, trying to connect with, the native land, I started to connect with the Native Americans, what their sound is like. And I actually started to research a lot of their music, whether it's like powwows, how they sing, that technique that they do with these throat, the rhythms that they use. And I actually tried to work with some Native American groups to get that authenticity and have that like musicality from the actual source. And I reached out to a couple of communities, but I didn't get through in time. So for this song, well, it made me question what was the sound of our indigenous people back in Trinidad? Because we know calypso, we know soca, we know that whole history, but what happened before that, before Christopher Columbus came? I don't know. And I, started to do some research, and the first people, and a lot of our indigenous people would have also come from Venezuela, and they would have brought these traditions over with the cuatro and the melodies. So this song made me really kind of dig deep into that indigenous sound, and it was exciting because I got to use Ron, and Ron is a maestro on the cuatro. Oh my gosh, he's literally, if not the best, one of the best in the country. Back at home, his technique and everything. So I was so excited to have him on this track. And he also did the maracas, which is like shakers, using calabash. Maybe Ron, you could explain this better.
Coming from Trinidad, yes, we had before Columbus, we had the Amerindians. And yes, they had influences from Venezuela and different stuff and then native instruments. Cuatro being one of those has always resonated deep within my bloodline. And, I started doing music when I was at the age of maybe 15 or 16 in there. I started late, but it was the call of the wild, it was always there. So when I immersed myself in that, it was like 1, 2, 3, and it just keep happening. Then again, Trinidad and Tobago is a cosmopolitan republic where you have East Indian influence, you have the African influence, you have the Spaniards influence, you have the British, so it's like a potpourri of all these different rhythms and stuff coming together, which creates a unique people and a unique song, So for me, I listen to all genres. Met Dog recently, excellent percussionist, and we had a couple little discussions about that. So for me, my playing, especially on the cuatro, and my beloved cuatro, I try to infuse all genres, So hence, Jeanine will mention the technique is different than the traditional cuatristas, When she brought this project forward to me and asked me, it was truly an honor to be a part of it because, like I said, it spoke to me, and that was the call of the wild once more. So it was very easy to get right into that pocket also too with the percussions of Doug and the bass playing from Josh. I mean, I don't know, this guy from a different dimension. And Jeanine is such an excellent musician and choreographer, and is literally art in music, you know? So this project for me is, my God, I'm looking forward to great things happening with this, that you could actually see what you're listening to. And it takes you back from walking bare feet on the ground. You know what I mean? It takes you right back to when your lollipop fell from your hand and you dust it off and you put it back in your mouth, you know? It brings you, you know, it takes you away from the hustle and the bustle. It brings out that inner child and, you know, just relax. Everything is going to be all right. Live while you're living, you know?
There's something about the rhythm of that traditional marac playing. I realize everything has its place, and that particular sound for this song has such, let me tell you guys, everybody moves to this song. Every single body. Even if I'm not sure if somebody's enjoying it, this is the 4th song on the playlist of out of the 5. By the 4th song, they move in, they tap in their feet. Run. Could you please tell me that's cool thing that we got to put in the music?
It was in 2020 or maybe 2021 during the pandemic. I worked at a building in Times Square, and we were going through some rubbles in a cellar. And I saw this piece of wood that I use as a reference point. I don't know if you guys into construction, but to square and take a measurement off a wall, this is like a makeshift stuff I was trying to get done with a straight edge, we would refer to it as. And while using it, I heard a sound like beads or like raindrops. I said, well, all right, we're in construction, so it's noise. And then when I flipped the stick around, or the instrument, that's what it is, I saw like Native American carving, hand carving on it. So I turned it left, I turned it right, upside down, and beautiful, like raindrops falling. It's a rain stick. It was rain stick, so the gods had placed that for me. You know what I mean? So it's like a chime, but with, I don't know what the construction inside is, probably like a rock ladder that the pellets or the seeds will fall left or right and create. It is amazing. So when Jeanine brought that try, I said, I have something here for you. And she was like, no way. Because I tried to get in touch with the Native Americans, and I said, well, here it is. They came to you.
Yeah,
That's
and it's in
amazing.
a really good condition. It carved out. You see,
Yes.
it's so cool. So,
Yes.
and the thing is that, you know, these are stories that don't really seem significant to the actual end product, but I really do believe that the energy is added there. These things in life, I definitely look at as just like synchronicities that, you know, you're on the right path.
All right. So let me just end off by saying, but Jimmy, of course, Sir Jimmy.
Oh,
Yeah, your work is first class, brother.
oh, fantastic. There's nothing I
Yes.
would rather do. I was born to do this.
Yes,
I will
man.
do this till the day I die. It's
Yes, sir. Yes,
brings
sir.
me
And to the
such
other
joy.
guys, I mean, it has been a pleasure meeting you all. And Jeanine, thanks again for including me in this wonderful project. And I hope to be doing some stuff soon.
Josh, Ron mentioned that he started playing later in his years, around 15, 16, and I think you were around the same age too. So why don't you tell us about you and your bass and your craft?
I wouldn't consider that late. I started on drums maybe a little younger because growing up in church, you always find something to touch. There's always something around that you could play around with. And I'm 14, I started playing the guitar. I used to play the guitar like a bass guitar because I only used to try to solo. I wasn't actually playing chords. We were playing with a band in church, and the bass guitarist who was in the band had to migrate. And I just decided, well, I'm gonna play the bass. And the first time I picked up the bass, it was like I felt like the energy. I felt like I came alive. It may sound like, you know, cliche, but it was like literally like, I think this is where I'm supposed to be. And from there, it's just like practice as much time I could get. When I come home from school, when I don't go to school, I'm on the bass, making noise in the bedroom. I think I started doing gigs maybe when I was like 16. Because I play by ear, well, I did play by ear at that time. It was really easy for me to learn music, to pick up things that anything I hear on the radio, I just try to emulate exactly what I heard. So it was easy to fit in with bands. And then you just grew up in Trinidad, playing with everybody, begin to meet musicians, start to hear about the influences of different bass players. Then I get into Jaco Pastorius and Marcus Miller, and a gospel bass player by the name of Darrell Freeman, and Maurice Fitzgerald, and Fred Hammond. And it just kept expanding from there. Start recording songs, start working with artists, come on a cruise ship and work, and you realize, oh, there's more to life than playing music in Trinidad for seasons. You know, being in Trinidad, we have carnival season, we have Christmas season, and we have music that are directly for those seasons. So I had to come out of that a little bit, expand the mind a little bit in terms of like my own expression. My main intent has always been to express my emotions or whatever the music needed as best as possible, as accurately as possible. So when I met Jeanine, it was really easy to connect to Jeanine because how are we going to express this feeling, this thought, this idea? What are the things that we're feeling that we want to express? And when she sends music to me, it's easy for me to, okay, I could hear where she's going, or I could hear where I maybe would go. And then when I send it back, she colors it differently. Like when we started working on music, that's how we were doing it. Like I would work on a part, I would send it to her. She will work on a part and send it back to me, and we just keep adding and making a song until we just create like some amazing stuff. And we
Yeah.
have some like really, really amazing stuff that we've created over the years, and I'm very appreciative that my upbringing was able to facilitate this kind of project so easily because it does make sense working with the energy of Jeanine.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for that explanation. And yeah, you know, your playing is fantastic and you are really good with I don't know, boy. You're good with listening to people and different parts of the music, and then you are able to embody that and heighten that. And the way how you think is so different. And so what Josh mentioned there is that usually I would send him music and then he would play something from completely out of this universe, which will inspire me to take the music in a different direction or to expand it in a different direction and stuff. And it just was very magical. And which is why it's, you know, very easy for me to select somebody like you to do music like this, because when it comes to even thinking about this music in terms of like a genre, I have no idea. I mean, it's just art. It has an intention to make people feel good and feel better. And you know, I can't tell you like, hey, this is a Latin song.
I think people do that for themselves though. Like generally when you create something, you create it because it feels right to you. It feels like something that you maybe I should do this, or this is just what makes me feel like alive at this moment. And then you have somebody else say, oh, that song's jazzy. Oh, that song's like neo soul. And other people put the name on it. But generally when we're creating stuff, we just being as authentic as possible as we can be to ourselves and to where we are, what we feel, what we want to create. And then it just happens to be sometimes extremely magical to the point where I think too with you, Jeanine, it's difficult to find a name for the genre because it's it's not anything that people have heard before. Because the colors are so strange, it's such a mixture of things. It's such a mix. It's almost as visually appealing as it is sonically. So when you get that type of creation, it's like, how do we name this? We can't really name it because we're not sure exactly what are the elements that stand out the most. Because it's such a mixture of things. It just makes sense when it comes together, but generally it's like we can't really name it. And I think that's great. Because then you're creating you're creating your own path, you're creating a space for other creatives who may not necessarily fit into another genre, that they could do this thing that they feel comfortable within themselves. So I think that's also kudos to you for being honest with yourself about your creation, your creativity, and following through with it, because you're impacting people who may not necessarily fit into the norm of what the world or what everybody else thinks music is supposed to sound like, but it still moves people when they hear it. It's natural for them to either imagine things or to want to dance, or they hear things that make them feel like, oh, I just want to lay in the grass and I just want to roll and I just want to pick up the grass and throw it. But it's
Yeah.
something fresh and new that makes you, think more about who you are, where you are at, what you like, more internal reflection, I think.
So Doug, tell us about you and your history and your love for percussion. You also, took a visit to Trinidad and lived there. So tell us about you.
Oh, let's see. I'm a boring American man, but my musical soul was forged in the Caribbean and in Brazil. I'm not sure why that kind of music fits so well into my ear and into my body, but it just did. And as a teenager, I was playing drum set and playing orchestra percussion. I thought that would be my life. And then I went to see Sting in concert one night, just on a lark. My neighbor had a ticket, said, I don't want to go tonight. You want to buy it? Yeah, okay, all right. And Mino Sinelu, I don't know if you know Mino. He's from Paris, but he's got, I think his family's from Martinique. He played with Miles, Weather Report, all the fusion cats in the 70s and 80s. He was on that tour, and the first thing I heard on that concert was this conga groove. It's one of those moments, if you're lucky, you have at least one in your life where everything shifts. I mean, I left that arena a different person than when I went in. I watched him and listened to him all night, and I thought, okay, I got to do that. I'll still keep up with the other stuff, but this is going to be my world. And it was.
Yeah.
I eventually ended up at Berklee College of Music, which is just a cornucopia of international students. So I gravitated towards the kids from Africa, the kids from Brazil, the kids from Cuba, and just took in as much as I could. And I wasn't able to do international studies myself until I'd been in New York for about, almost 10 years. I went to Guadeloupe, stayed there for a while, studied Guoka music. It was fantastic. And then Trinidad the year after that. A couple years later, I went to Brazil. Earlier this year, I was in Jamaica for a little while studying at the Maroon compound.
Oh, wow.
So I've taken in as much as I can authentically, and at the same time understanding I'm an American guy raised on contemporary music. I'm not going to pretend that I can step into a samba band and play as well as these cats. I take as much as I can and apply it in appropriate ways.
But I bet you can. Your playing is really good.
Thank you.
I have two questions for you. The first one being, when you decide to go to these places and completely immerse yourself in the culture to learn, what is that process like? Where do you plan to stay? Do you think about safety? What do you think about?
All those things, sure. And the funny thing is how it gets easier each time because the internet gets better each time. When I went to Guadeloupe in 2007, of course, there was internet, there was email, but it was still harder to get in touch with people when I was there because I don't think there were smartphones at the time. And but as far as safety and planning, there's really not a how. You just do it. You know what I mean?
That's some good advice, to be honest. Just do it. Jimmy, talk to me, because it seems like you have a lot of history and a lot of stories to tell. So I'm very excited to hear your transitional state and magic of music.
I started out singing in church. That's where I learned a lot about harmony and always had a thing for gospel. I was trying to think of the bass player's name as you were naming great bass players. He's the bass player for Kirk Franklin.
Matt Ramsey. Back then?
Yes. Beast. Anyway, that's what I grew up listening to. And I've all through school, I kind of picked up bass the same way Joshua did, where I had an acoustic guitar, because somebody had told me I could get girls. And but then when I would play with people, I would end up playing bass lines. The same thing. I'd play melodies. I didn't know the chords, so I would find these cool melodies. And this was in college. A gig came up for auditioning for a bass player, and I borrowed a bass. I got the gig, and then I learned it. So,
College where?
anyway, I went to school in Vermont. I was a ski racer as a kid, so chose a school based on skiing, proximity to skiing, and an 18-year-old drinking age. I moved to the Vineyard. I had a funk band that I played bass and sang backup and also did some percussion and stuff. We had breakdowns. Then I had a world beat band called the Uvulators, which was kind of what started N-Train. I started playing and touring with them. We did a bunch of shows with Fish, but we were doing a lot of soca. We actually did some songs in Yoruba. And then I'm here on the Vineyard. I've had a studio here. It's kind of a cool cycle because in the summer you're just out. You're playing all the time. You're doing shows. You're doing concerts. And just when you're like, God, I need a break, then the fall comes and everybody leaves. And so fall is when we record, because all these musicians you've been playing with all the time, all summer, all your arrangements are tight. Everybody knows their parts. So we record. And then winter comes, everybody splits. Some people head south, some people head north. And that's when people write. And then spring, we get back together again, rehearse the new material, and summer hits and out you go. And if I was in a place that wasn't so seasonal with the industry, I don't know if I'd get to do all of those things. I don't know if I'd take the time to just write with somebody if I was gigging all the time. Or it's kind of cool. It's hard financially because you've got all this crazy stuff coming, all this corporate stuff coming in the summer, which is huge money, but they all take 90 days to pay. So the fall is when all my friends want to record, and I'm like, let me see if I can keep the electricity on.
Wow. It's so interesting hearing the similarities between Martha's Vineyard and
and he's kind of seasonal. I was thinking the same thing. I'm sure Trinidad is the same way, where you have like a tourist season and then probably a rainy season. And we have
that's
in Trinidad, especially carnival time, which is basically right after Christmas, straight until, so we have carnival either February or March. It generally changes. But musicians make a ton of money between Christmas time and carnival time. And if you're not part of the select group to tour or to travel with the artists, then you have to hope that you have good financial skills and you've saved.
Right.
Because then the gigs, all these shows start to dwindle. And then you have a couple musicians who would be touring internationally with the artists. Or then you might have like a jazz season, but that in itself is a specific set of musicians. It's similarities both there and both in Trinidad.
Yeah.
If you're not aware of managing your finances, of networking, of making sure that you connect with people, then it generally becomes difficult to be working year round. It's a thing.
I love what I do. I love working with people, and just the whole experience of writing and production and making it all about the music and not about ego or drama or bullshit. It's just, hey, let's do this.
I love that. And to be honest, I experienced that sentiment with everybody here, including Ron. Yeah, where everybody really put their heart into it, and and the people really feel it. So before we go any further, I definitely would love Patrick to introduce himself, because he is also a man of many talents that I've come to learn.
Well, let me say how much of a privilege and honor it is to be in community with all of you, because the culmination of what the output is because everyone here contributed, generously to this experience. And so thank you so much, Jeanine, for allowing me to be a part of this. Like that's just started from the beginning of, I randomly get a request in my inbox, and it's and it's in the request section. And to be connected with you through someone that I recently met and just built community with. And it's just, I'm very honored that I'm vibrating enough to be meeting the people I'm supposed to be meeting, and for them to be connecting me to other people who are vibrating at the same type of frequencies. No pun intended, anatomic frequencies. but but
So that's what
it
it's
was
about,
just
yeah.
right. It's just a beautiful thing to be able to work on this project. You sent me a reference point, so I've never done like a nature filming or kind of production like this before. And Jeanine caught me at the right time because I was just transitioning into this more artistic expression when it came to videography and just photography, and just wanting to record and work with people who have a life and not trying to I say that, but
Yeah.
not trying to build the social media for it to look like they're living life. You know what I'm saying? And so this project was so wholesome, because she shared with me a documentary in which she was inspired by, and I watched that documentary right after we got off the phone, and I was like, okay, this is truly, truly an incredible piece of work. And so, how do I emulate that type of work and the essence of that film to be able to create in partnership with the sound that would be mixed with that? So I'm just with a camera recording everything that I see, any little thing, waiting 5 seconds. But it's not until I received the sounds that it was like, oh, okay. I remember when we recorded a scene with the raindrops. This sounds like rain to me. That was a very interesting process because now I have, I think, 200 gigs worth of clips and visual images. It was a lot. And and so now to put all of that together and to stitch it up to match the sounds, the beautiful sounds that you've all participated in bringing to life, and to make it visually appealing, to tell a story, right, with the sounds. And so that was a very, very interesting process for me.
Thank you. Tell us about yourself too, in terms of
I know, right?
yeah, how did you get into, photography, videography, and then you're also an artist. So, what does it
Yeah.
all mean?
I think it all means expression, and I think Josh said it. Joshua, I hope you don't mind me calling Josh. I think Joshua expressed it very well earlier when he says, it's just an expression without people really trying to classify it, and I think that's what I've been exploring as an artist. I declared myself an artist, and so everything that I'm touching is an expression of myself. And so, like, my mantra right now is living a life that aligns with my nervous system, and being
I love
artful
that.
and being intentionally artful has just been the most liberating thing that I've been participating in my life, right? And it's like leaning into this idea of just self-expression, of doing what you want to do, and just getting it done.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
I know that now this is the first time for me in all the projects that I've done so far in my life that things went so seamlessly in terms of the people that I had on the team, and even Jimmy. Like, oh my gosh, I would have expressed this to you, I think, most likely, but I have struggled so much, and Joshua could attest to this because he's worked with me on a couple of projects, and he would have known the frustration that I have with working with an engineer who could just bring that music home, because a lot of the times that they would, however they mixed it, would take away from the music, and I didn't even feel connected to the music anymore. So it has been such a psychological hurdle for me that is literally, or was literally, one of the worst parts for me in creating music, reaching the mix and master stage. And it was coming down to the deadline. I had no idea who I was going to use. I was just going to probably put out some jobs like on Upwork or Fiverr and just look for people. Actually, I found somebody, I should say, who mixed my last song really well, and he did it using analog gear. And I was like, great, I found my person. I could use them to mix my music from now till ever, because this is now a relationship. And then he died, and I got sad again. And so down to the wire, and I didn't have anybody to mix this, and everything just happened. Everything was happening simultaneously, where I didn't even know what the music was going to sound like. So even here, and Patrick mentioned, like, you know, recording the video, but you have no idea what the end product is going to be. Same. I was in the same boat. Like, wow, I wonder what's going to happen here. Like, who knows? But I think because of my experiences before, I didn't have high expectations, I should say. I didn't have high expectations with the mix, but it was completely trusting you, because at the same time I didn't hire anybody else or had a plan B. It was just like, okay, Jimmy has it, okay, Jimmy's in hospital, but okay, we're just gonna trust the process here. And oh my, the first time you sent back the mix, I couldn't believe it. It was
Well, can I interrupt real?
Yeah.
First off, anytime you send mixes out for the first time, it's terrifying. You've just put your heart and soul into these things, and we'd never worked together. I didn't know what you were expecting. You were really, really good at giving me direction of what
good.
you like, where it's, you know, don't smother everything in reverb, whatever. I'm like, great, we're on the same page there. So I uploaded these mixes, and I think it was a day or two. So for that day or two, I'm like, oh fuck, she hates them. What am I going to do? All right, what's my next approach going to be? But man, to have your first response be this 5-minute oration of how wonderful the mixes were and how they took her right where she wanted them to go. And so I'm like, oh, thank God, we're on the same page. And
you're underlining the double-edged sword of remote recording, because they're not there, or recording or whatever it is, remote collaboration. They're not there in the same room as you try something to say, no, the other direction. So you send your stuff off, and if they don't reply as soon as you think they should, oh, she hates it. Oh, no, she's just trying to figure out how to fire me.
And I've heard that with creative people, it's 10% practice, 10% performance, and 80% crippling self-doubt.
Well, and with percussion, there's so many things you can do, you know,
right,
from all over the world. And you know, if you go completely the way they did not plan on a remote session, you know, I try to send out little snippets as I go to my clients, so I don't get too deep into something before they say, no, not, you know, not Middle Eastern this, or, you know, something like that. But it's a double-edged sword, you know, because they're not there for instant feedback.
Right. And once you're in your flow, you just want to keep going, and like this part inspires this part, and then you want to do this thing. And
I just want to say, as Jeanine said, like, I have a lot of experience with Jeanine and mixing engineers. The level of comfort that Jeanine had with you, I actually just want to give you like applause, bro, because she's very detailed. I also wanted to ask Patrick too about the experience of working with her with Bean. She's very detailed about what she wants to hear, about what she wants to see. And we've worked on a couple of things before, and it's always been some songs you have 2 or 3 mixing engineers who have not gotten it right. And it's like, because her ear is so detailed and she's giving you this particular project to work on, I know that it was something that she was a little bit, you know, slightly,
I'm sure,
extremely nervous. But the fact that you did it with such detail, and I didn't actually have a complaint about anything. Generally, I have complaints about the bass and the way that people mix the bass in a song. I had no complaints. I could hear all the instruments. I could hear the vocals she was doing was coming in very nicely. The quattro, everything was just like, so I have to say, man, great job. Great job.
Thank you so much. That's so wonderful.
Thank you. No, it really meant a lot.
The musicianship on this project, and you know, I've agreed to mix these 4 songs with a deadline, and I'd never heard anything before, and so I didn't know if I was going to be fixing out of tune tracks or out of time drums, and it was just magical to find these, to get a blank slate of just the recorded tracks, nothing, and then discovering all of these little events, like how each track would start out with this, and then this would happen over here, or I made it happen over here, but each cycle there was another event that kind of added to the texture and the richness and the groove. Man, the grooves were just burning tracks. So my and the bass lines, what is that, a 15, some of those notes were like really deep. You play 6-string, 5-string? What do you play?
No, I play a 5-string, but my bass is detuned or toned down. So instead of a low B, I have a low A, and all my strings are lower. So
cool.
it feels good. It gives you that.
It
you want it to sound like it's the earth rumbling, it has to rumble at that, you know.
A little prostate massage.
Yeah, Doug.
Very tasty, everybody.
Very tasteful. Doug, I was actually going to jump onto you because I don't know what I was expecting to, even in terms of instrumentation. You talk to a percussionist and, you know, their whole setup varies according to their personality. But percussion, I realize, is a big deal in my music because of all the tones and textures that you get from these instruments. And I have to say, you were so tasteful and brought like a whole new perspective into the music too. Especially, I think my favorite is the song. Well, we knew these songs before they had names. So that would have probably been like AF5, which is now called Becoming Morning. And how you like did that double time. And even the tones that you chose, and thanks so much. In some of the emails, Doug broke down like what instruments he used. There was also a triangle that you did. I think it was in AF2, which is the rain song also. But what was your approach to the music with choosing the instruments?
Well, first of all, you told me what each one represented: mountains, sunrise, or, you know, whatever it may have been. You know, so I try to think like a producer in that regard. All right, what sounds can I make that invoke this imagery? And as far as which instruments, I have my favorites that I think I express myself best on. You know, and a lot of times there's a strong geographical sense to a piece of music. Like if you were using a Phrygian mode, I would think, you're in the Middle East, I better use my Doombek or something like that. You know, there's things that just go together. But what was I the last with percussion, the last thing you added on? And
yeah, I think you were the last. Usually I would leave bass to go after, but because it was happening so fast, I just threw it to Josh. So if he had any ideas, I would bounce back. So you were the last to record, yeah.
Yeah, and there was a lot of space. I thought, okay, I could really try to drive this thing with a heavy pulse, but I think this, you know, each tune needs to go on a journey and ebb and flow. So I guess I got lucky in getting what you were looking for as far as how much percussion you want, how much groove you want, you know, because you can overdo it and put too much on there, too little. And I think I probably sent you more than you used, which is the idea, because, all right, I'll play the shaker through this whole section, but take it out here if you want, you know, at least you have it to mute if you want.
Yeah, you gave me some really good options, to be honest. There's a lot of things that I left in, and maybe just for dynamic's sake, I probably removed it, as you said. So maybe, okay, we'd have a drop here, so I'd pull out the shaker, as you said. But in terms of like the taste and the tones that you decided to go with, they were spot on. I like that same song AF5 / Becoming Morning. I didn't even think about doing that. Like, of course it makes sense to bring up the tempo and make the tempo double time, because it's like, you know, you're now waking up and it's like a rise, but it was just so tastefully done. And again, I had no idea what to expect. For some reason, I thought Doug was Venezuelan. So I'm like, yeah, getting in that nice kind of, you know.
That is an honor that you would think that. Thank you. Thanks for everything. Everything clicked for all of us, I think.
I think it's also refreshing to to work with a percussionist who's aware of music. Just the mere fact that you just spoke about pigeon is like, okay, so he understands more than just, rhythms.
Rhythm.
Because you understand how to approach, you understand which instruments to give the spotlight in a specific moment, which is like, it makes perfect sense why the music turned out the way it turned out, because you've compiled here, Jeanine, a bunch of people who they're aware of sound. They're good at listening. We're all good at listening, and it's like, okay, cool. This is You did extremely well as a producer, as an arranger, as a creator with compiling a group of people here that are amazing at what they do. So again, give
Thank
God,
you.
I have to
Oh,
give you
thanks.
big props.
I want to echo Jimmy, because similar to you, I received a voice note from Jeanine and there was anxiety. I think it was a week turnaround, like a 2-week turnaround. And then I had to take a trip to London and I tried to bring everything with me to London, but I was using DaVinci to process it and it just wasn't processing because for whatever reason, it's like, it was just so difficult for me to work on it that my computer was slow. It couldn't really take the speed. I fly in 4 days before we had our first showing, and
Yeah.
to put it together. But the feedback that I received from Jeanine was just it was heartwarming, right? Like I went back and listened to it because I think like a month prior, I had such a horrible client. And it was just like the review and the feedback. I was just like, I am good enough. Thank you for giving me that. Yes.
Yeah,
And
I
so sincere,
don't-
and so sincere. It just felt so sincere and wonderful.
Could I ask you, Jeanine, because there's a lot of harmony, vocal stuff, chord stuff that you came up with. I think that is also an amazing thing that you did. And I would like to find out from you, like, what is your inspiration in terms of like creating some of these amazing melodies, these crazy harmonies? Because obviously the first thing that I got it wasn't from anybody else, it was from you. And the seed was from you. So what was your like experience coming up with some of these AF1, AF2, AF3, AF4, AF5, you know?
Well, oh wow. So the whole project was based on reconnecting with nature and trying to connect with the nature here in New York, which is a completely different space compared to Trinidad. And, we are accustomed to certain bush and trees and the lush, and, you can't just step into a forest back home. There's no way to step. Or you could step and you don't realize that that's actually a cliff. Like, it's just so abundant. And here was so different, such a different experience. So I really set out to intentionally to connect with the land, and that's where Patrick and I went into Catskills. And just even that, the whole process, it was like, okay, I'm spending the money to rent this car, to go out and rent the cabins. I have to select how many days. I was worried about the money part. I don't really know specifically what I'm going there to do, but just to observe. But I'm so happy that I trusted that, because I'm even thinking about, oh my gosh, I have this guy with me. Is it that I'm going to run out of things for us to do while we're there? Is he going to think that I'm unprofessional? Who the hell knows? And we went there, and it was literally a cabin in the woods. So you could have just walked outside and just kind of venture into, these trees and stuff like that. And I thought that wouldn't really take long. We spent 4 days and 3 nights, but there was so much to see, so much, whether it's the patterns of the tree trunks or how the mushrooms grow off the trees at the top compared to the mushrooms that are growing from the ground. It was all these little things. And I was so happy that Patrick was there, because he captured what I saw, as well as he captured me, which I didn't really plan at all to be captured. I'm not too sure if I could really describe it, but the influence really came from the nature that I experienced, and not necessarily the nature alone, but the experience of being there and how it felt to see something like, oh my God, look at this red thing in this little patch here, or even when the rain started to fall, how the place was cooling down, how cold it was still. It's very sensory things, whether it's how your body shifts according to the temperature, or even your nervous system shifts according to how you feel, seeing the sun rising. I think that's where those melodies in a crazy way come from, because when it comes to actually composing the music, I don't think about, I don't even know what key any of those songs in, to be honest. Like, you know,
Same here. Same here.
oh, for real? Yeah, I don't think theory at all. Is really just feeling. And I'm so happy again Patrick is there, because my memory is not the best, and I would have experienced all of that, and I would have taken notes and stuff like that, but I would have forgotten until I went back to those 200 gigs of footage, and I'm like, oh yeah, that happened on the curly vines and stuff. That's so cool. So using those as references to, like, oh yeah, okay, so this could be about the mountains, and that's how the mountains look, and that's how it felt when we first saw the mountains. That's where that inspiration came from. And there's no plan, there's no structure of how long songs are supposed to be. That's really it. I just play until it makes sense, to be honest. And lucky enough to have you guys who agreed to do this.
Let me add, because what you all did, the complexity of layering sounds and putting it all together and just listening to it, just felt right. It just, everything just came together and it felt right. And I think one thing that I learned from Jeanine throughout this experience is, what's so funny is she said a lot of jewels. Like Jimmy, she is a magical person. Humming, just putting the words together and just like really creating music in real time. Like you can see her brain working. And if you have a moment to capture it, you can actually capture what she's doing. So it was beautiful to spend those 4 days and 3 nights with her in this space, because it was so quiet. It was void of the sound pollution that we get in the cities, and to just experience, like, what are the birds talking about? Like they're chatty patties in the forest, and it's like everyone is talking, and it's like, what are they talking about? One thing I continue to tell people, Jeanine, is it takes a while for trees to grow this tall. Because I remember you saying that, because we're looking at these massive trees and how tall they are. Here we're living in this life, and we're trying to, like Ron mentioned it, always in the hustle and the bustle of the world, and adopting this stressful, unnatural nature of existence, that we forget that we live in cycle with this world, and it takes a while to plant the seed and for the seed to grow. Being mindful of all these little things in this world has just been like extremely beneficial to my nervous system. And to have this opportunity again to work with Jeanine on this project and to get away from the hustle and bustle.
I'm glad we did this to actually connect with each other better and understand the bigger picture and the smaller pictures of what we accomplished, I think. But thank you all. It's great to finally put faces and voices with all of this, and I'll be in touch with you all soon.
Joshua, I wanted to ask you, even though you're really, really good at adapting to different genres of music, and you have this natural ear to just find these sweet spots and just pull it all together, was there a moment in this that it was hard to translate? Was there any moment? Or
there were a couple. I'm not sure if to say hard to translate. I do remember, I can't remember which one it is that I told you I had recorded while I was on ship. And I told you I would like to revisit this when I get back home. At least so I could feel like I'm grounded, at least somewhere that I know I'm comfortable. Those are mainly my challenges. But yeah, I enjoy recording and sending you random things, and then you could tell me, yes, I like this, I don't like this, maybe we could try something in a different section. Like, I enjoy that because it makes the creative process, it makes it a little bit easier for me. I prefer the honesty, I prefer the directness of, cool, I love this part, Josh, but you see that next section, I think you should maybe do this thing. keep this thing for this section a little bit longer. I love that.
You love
Because
that?
that,
I honestly did not know that. I thought that was annoying.
no, that's best because I could do a bunch of things. Like you know this. I could send like a bunch of random ideas, just like what I'm hearing in my head. But the minute you tell me this is what I want to zone into, it makes it much easier because then I can expound on that particular idea, make it make more sense, and then maybe train something else and see if it pushes you in a different direction, if it pushes you to want something else. I feel like my difficulties are not real difficulties because I just see it as part of the process. It's literally it's an exchange. It's your project. So basically, you have the vision, you have the idea, and even though we're figuring out the different parts together, it always makes sense to hear the feedback so I can know exactly okay. The next time I pick up my bass, I'm gonna have to stay down here. I'm gonna have to play a little bit more chords because she wants the textures to sound this particular way.
What I enjoyed too, I think this was AF4, which is actually the first song about the mountains on the playlist, is that both you and Doug started off the same way, where he started off doing some rumbling, and you guys were recording simultaneously because you did give me a track before, but I asked you to just check it over again. And then he started to record too. And both of you guys recorded some rumbling effects at the beginning, which is again such beautiful synchronicity when I get the both tracks and I hear Doug like, gosh, I should have asked him what instrument that was, but there was some rumbling and tumbling, and then you did like some and that is literally the beginning of the whole playlist. And it just, guys, it just works so well.
A lot of these songs I recorded like 4 o'clock in the morning, like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning before anybody else was up. A lot of times, from the moment I pick up my bass, before I even listen to the song in its entirety, I start recording because I want like that first moment of listening to the song. Whatever happens naturally at that point, I just put it down. I could always delete, I could always clip, I could always do over something when I listen back. But generally, a lot of those things is like whatever is the first idea I get, just record it, and then I just go through and slightly revisit and be like, okay, I don't like this, I don't like this. And that's why when I talk about like the natural expression, doing what you feel naturally, that's kind of like what comes for you to say that Doug did the same thing. I would like to think that maybe he maybe put a little bit more thought in it because he seems like a very intentional guy. But a lot of these things are just natural expression to me. So I definitely appreciate the fact that the natural expression works well when somebody else is doing their thing as well. That's great.
Jimmy, I wanted to ask you, by the way, what was your approach to mixing this? Because it's not really a song, and I guess it's not really a soundtrack. What the hell did you do with all those tracks?
Well, first I had to solo everything, so I knew what was there. And even towards the end, there were some, when we were finalizing the mixes, you were like, oh yeah, at 3 minutes and 12 seconds, something comes in and plays this little line, and I had missed that, and it was like, oh, perfect, that's just what it needs at that moment. So for me, I can't stand dealing with lyrics. I love sounds. I love the way it makes you feel, the way it immerses you and just takes you wherever it's going. I mean, you guys have described it so beautifully. I think part of the joy of it, because I was stuck in this hospital bed, I thought I was going to be there for like an hour. I just went in to get some, but they wanted to put me on IV. I guess my insurance is good, so they kept me on an IV antibiotic for 5 days. So I had my friend bring my laptop and headphones and an interface. So I was able to just focus on it. I mean, I spent all that 5 days, I had nothing else to do.
Wow.
There was a storm going on, so people weren't getting out, and I had a visitor or two. And I had a doctor who, a Nigerian doctor, who was so interested. He would come in. I got the best care because he would be like, can I hear that part? Can I hear those parts again? And he was, it was fun having him involved. Yeah, I mean, I could tell where you wanted to go with it because of your choice of the parts, and I don't know how else to describe it. It was easy. It was just like all I really needed to do was find a place. There was nothing that needed to be fixed, or this doesn't really groove. Let me see if I can talk her out of like pulling this part and bringing it back later. There wasn't any of that. It was all like, wow, this just expands and opens up and then roars and then comes back down to this little trickle. And
yeah.
So no, you laid the roadmap.
You did great.
Let each sound have its own space and moment.
Thank you again so much. Patrick, I wanted to ask you about your editing and when you finally heard the music, because you started off that first clip with the cliff of walking down to the mountain, which really was like, oh my God, this is the perfect way to start this. So tell me about your process, what that was like, connecting the music to the visuals, how you would choose what clips.
As soon as I heard the music, I was like, I have a clip for that, because I remember her. I remember the time when she was walking. It was so important for you to be a part of that. And it was perfect because your reaction was real. It wasn't staged, right? Like, that's a real reaction of Jeanine in real time. And so it was wonderful to be able to hear how grand the sound was, and also to complement it with the visuals. And similar to you, Jimmy, like, lyrics sometimes distort the intention of the mood. I listened to the songs at least 10 times before I started putting anything into it, just visually trying to understand which, and going, not even looking at the images that I have, but just remembering the moments that when we were together and what we were recording. And I was like, in that moment, did I capture this scene that matches well and express what this audio sound is translating? It was really trying to bring to life, to allow people to reflect on the things that we captured at that moment. Because I think all of this is a reflection, right? That is just that people get to see. No, it was a wonderful experience. It was a wonderful opportunity. I definitely want to do it again. Now I'm very mindful of the type of projects that I'm like accepting, because if it's not like this, right? If it's not as meaningful, this right here is on another level. And I'm honored that I was able to be a part of that. So that was my process, is listening to the music, maximizing and utilizing empty space.
The process is so much like cooking. I love to cook, and it's so great to reach into your gigabytes of, and here are your ingredients, and we've got this music, and we have this point B, and how can we take what we've gathered here and make something spectacular and do the task that you've set out to do. So well done, everybody.
Yeah, mission accomplished, honestly. Thank you so much for being so great, not only at what you do, but just as people, just there was no ego, as Jimmy mentioned before. There was no problems. Everybody was so professional and was just like, okay, we're on a tight deadline. Let's get this done. And you guys really made it happen. And the help that I had on this side with the organization that I work with too, I really, really have never experienced a project before where teamwork and the dream work was real. And this is definitely something that's going to stay with my heart, So thank you guys again so much for creating this, not only for me, but just literally for anybody who gets to experience it. And yeah, I think that's it.
Great meeting you guys.
Yeah.